Hey everyone, welcome to the next video on adding RGB LEDs to your existing S197 Mustang MyColor system. In this video we're going to go over making the next harness, which is tapping into our red, blue, green voltages from the existing system. So if you watched my previous video, you saw we made the power harness to pull from the door lock, and now we're going to make a harness for pulling the RGB signal. So once again, I'll drop the part numbers in the description, but if you look here, here is the female end, here is the male end of the harness, and we're going to go ahead and start pinning it. So the video is going to be pretty much exactly the same as the last video, where we're going to pull some wire, and then we'll run some terminals, some pins, and get it going. All right, so for this one, I'm going to take, once again, about, I'd say 2.5 feet of wire here. Okay, we're going to snip that off. That gives us, like I said, about 2.5 feet. I probably should have gone a little bit longer, but that's all right. Now we're going to follow the same technique as last time. We're going to take the end. We're going to split the end off about 2 inches back on each one of these wires. We're going to strip about maybe a little more than 1/4 inch off of each. Okay, and this will be exactly what we did last time. We'll get a crimper, and once again, I think we'll start with our terminals. We're gonna pre-stage our crimper, right? And then we feed the wire through. Decent enough. Could probably be a little bit better. So like I said, sometimes I'll put it in one of the smaller sizes, and that crimps it down a little bit more cleanly. But you do run the risk of bending it just a bit. So just be careful of that. once you get a good feel for your crimping tool, you'll start to recognize and start to move more quickly. What's the right, how many clicks does it take to stage, you know, how far to push it in, everything you'll start to get for a feel. So see, that's another pretty decent one. Now, this is a mistake I've made in the past. You see, I'm quickly trying to put this in, the wire under my thumb, and crimp it. Look at the green wire. It's in the tool. I can't tell you how many times I've done this, and I've gone and crimped and really given it strength to crimp down the red one and crushed the other one that's in there. So this is a good example of showing you always to be careful. Pull back your other wires before you use your crimper, because I can't tell you how many I've messed up and had to cut off because there was just simply no saving that terminal or pin that got destroyed. All right, so it's quick. We got nice and easy. Let's get these in. Actually, I don't remember the order of these, so what you can do is two things. You can go and look at the wiring diagram, or you can check an existing wire that you already have to see what is the setup. So, luckily for you guys, I actually have the cup holder from some spare parts I was working on, but this is good because it'll allow me to show you. So this is where the lighted LEDs come for the cup holder. You can see the wires here, you can see the harness. Now let's take a look at the plug in particular. So if I look at the plug, right, this is a match for our female connector. And what we want to do is just look at the back. And so the way to the wiring for the Mustang is blue is blue, green is green. That's straightforward. Orange is your red signal, and brown is your ground. So on this, I'm going to just start out with red is in the top left, right? That's my orange wire. So when I come down here and I start my wiring, I'm going to take my red and I'm going to plug it into the top left from the back, which is here. Oh, that goes in so smooth. All right, so that's how we do our matching. So we're gonna grab this again and we're gonna look, okay, next one over is black on the top right, or my ground, whatever you're using for ground. Again, just be consistent. All right, then when I look back at my harness, we have blue on the bottom right, under the ground. So we're gonna take that blue, swing it around, and then we have, last but not least, our green, and we'll slide our green in. Okay, so there's your connector, all wired up. Now we want to go on to the next one. Now this one is going to be a little different. I want to keep this as short as possible because I'm going to splice in and come way off sideways, which is why I got all this extra wire here. So what I'm going to do is give myself probably about 6 inches, and I'll cut that off. And we're going to do the same thing we did before, but this time we'll do it with the pins. All right, so we split it off. We're going to strip our pieces off. And now it's the same routine, right? But with our pins, which I knock my pins underneath the tripod here. So let's get these back over. Now remember, you may not need to do that extra crimp on the smaller size. I'm doing it just because, as you saw in the last video, if the crimp isn't perfectly suited and sized for the connector, it may not fit, and then if you jam it in there, you're gonna have a real hard time getting it out. So again, I'm just taking that precaution to make sure that I don't have trouble when it comes time to seat this in the connector. All right, so that's our 4 pins. So we're gonna, again, match the other side of this. So we want it to be the exact same, but sort of opposite. So when I look at this and I plug this in, you can see here we have red on this side, top left. So we're on this side gonna put red top right. So it slides right through into that same spot. So my red is gonna go up here. Okay, and then we know we have black next to that. Underneath black, we have blue. And next to that, last but not least, we have green. All right, now we want to make sure, once again, we're going to push down on that plastic piece inside. So just grab anything that's kind of stiff and pop it down, and there it is. So now it's in. So now you have this short go-between, which you can test out by just turning it around on itself. And if you've made it long enough, it should slide right in. And your wire should match up when you think about it flowing straight through. And mine does. So that means we got the orientation correct. Now let's take this apart. I always struggle with this, okay? And we could double check if you have a spare wire, if you wanted to. You could double check that it fits. It goes in nice. My wires match up. So now if I were to plug this in the car into the body harness, I have this go-between harness, this interconnect. So perfect. So now I'll take that out and we'll move on to the last part, which is wiring up our JST connector. Now this JST connector, the last one was 2 because we were pulling power and ground. This time we don't care about the ground. We only want the 3 colors, right? Red, blue, and green. So for our wire, that's why I cut about roughly 2 feet off. I'm gonna take the black, I'm gonna strip it away to leave us with 3, okay? So now I'm gonna peel this back. And this time I do probably about 2.5 inches, maybe a little bit more, and you'll see why. It's essentially to make sure my crimper can fit inside to crimp. If you have one of the crimpers where the crimps are on this side, you're in good shape. But for me, they're on the inside, which means I have to fit the whole handle inside. So anyway, we'll pull that back. All right, we'll take about maybe 3/8, which is maybe about 1 centimeter, maybe. Maybe a little more than that. Okay, so now we've got those. Now, on this connector, what we want to do is similar to last time. We don't want to just cut straight through this whole thing, right? Because we don't want to cut this black wire. So what we're going to do is we're going to use either a fingernail or a tool. Remember, being very gentle. I'm going to use my pick here. Very gentle, not to pierce the wire. And we're just going to separate these wires. One. Ooh. Ouch. Okay. We got green. Just be careful when you're doing this so that you don't accidentally use your tool, cut your own finger. All right, so now we have our wires all split apart. We're going to take the black one, we're going to separate it away from the rest, and then we're going to snip it. All right, take each one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Strip that back. All right, now we have our butt connectors, which are sort of all over the place now. And let's start wiring this up. So do the same thing we did last time. We'll take green and green, we'll twist them together. You want to get the end as thin as possible so that it becomes very easy to thread it into your connector. All right, now we've got green. So now let's do the red. That's red. And lastly, we've got blue. And we'll crimp that on. So now we're going to go to the other side of our connector. And now you're going to see why it becomes a little bit difficult, because once I strip these off and I go to put them in, again, my crimper, the handle needs to go kind of in between, which makes it a little bit more, it requires a little bit more finesse. So, like last time, I'll grab it where I want to crimp it first, then I'll feed the wire in. Now, slide it out, being very careful not to tear or pull or yank on any of the wires. Now just take your time. It's not, it's not a race. You're not in a rush. This is a long project, so just make sure you have nice solid full crimps and your wires are fully seated inside of the connectors. They're not crumbling or getting caught they slide right inside that little hole that's inside the connector. Okay, we give a little test to each one of these. Probably should have done it as I was doing it. And they all seem solid. So at this point, what you would want to do is with a multimeter, you'd probably want to do a continuity test. Make sure that from this side to this side, you're getting a signal across blue, red, green, and the ground wire. But I don't have my multimeter here, so we're just going to trust that this is done, and I'll do it off camera later. Now we're going to work on the JST connector side. This is going to be really easy. You guys have seen this before. Now this comes I guess stripped, but not very much. So I like to take a little bit more off the end. All right, now I know based on how I wired my controller up that for this particular JST connector, the red is the red. So these are actually in the same order as this wire strip. No, it is definitely not in the same order as this wire strip. Well, I'm just going to take my chances because I don't remember off the top of, well, I do remember it's red and red. Believe yellow goes to blue. And green goes to black. Now, if you don't remember, hopefully you're not like me and you haven't sealed up your controller box, so you'll be able to just look on the inside to see what the orientation is. Obviously, I already closed mine up from the last time we were all together, and I'm not planning on taking it apart for this portion of the video. But that's how you would find out. Take a picture of it before you close it up. That would also be helpful. Will prevent you from being like me and having to just take your chances. with that last crimp, this interconnect harness is essentially done. So now you have your wires that will go in between the plugs on the car, and you've successfully added a length of RGB coming off of that. So with that being said, guys, this is essentially how you can tap into any one of your harnesses. I showed you this in the last video. We're getting essentially a lot closer to the end of this project. So remember, we have our box. Last time we were together, we created this harness to give us power. Now we have our tapped in signal for the RGB coming in this side. So in the next video, I'm going to take you through a little bit of what it takes to open up one of these connectors. I'm just going to show you one of them. I'm not going to show you all of them. How I put this RGB LED on the actual, let's say, whatever you're working on, the window switch or the lock switch. And the other end, I'm not going to show you this because it's straightforward. You would just take a 4-pin JST connector and then wire that up into the colors on here. Now you will have to either look at the wiring schematic on the LED you're getting, or do a test with an LED tester, some sort of 12-volt source, because you don't want to burn them out. But to keep things simple, you're obviously going to wire it up, and then this will plug in on this end. So at this point, you would pretty much have everything you need in order to tap into your system. The thing that's probably going to take you the longest is building this box. Again, I'll provide the wiring schematic so that we can take a look at that together. But that's it. Last but not least, as I mentioned, I will go back. I will use a heat gun to kind of shrink these butt connectors down. Make sure that they're sealed. I will use a multimeter to make sure I test all of the continuity on this, because I don't want to take the car apart and start trying to plug things in and then realize that it's not working and not understand why. So that's it. Thank you guys for joining, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.